Welcome to the Smart Property Investment Show with your host, Phil Tarrant.
Hi, everyone. How you going? Thanks for joining us on the podcast today. We're going to do a bit of a deep dive into a particular state, and we like to do this every now and then. And sort of criticisms I get around the Smart Property Investment Show, of which there is very little. So thank you for being kind to me. But is that you'd like to hear more about what's going on outside of the Sydney and Melbourne markets? And I normally sort of, when I get that feedback, I go, yeah, that's fair enough. That's quite clear. But we've got to remember that most of the property transactions do take place in Sydney and Melbourne. Therefore, it dominates a wider part of our coverage here. But we do like to check out the other states, Tasmania, South Australia, Western Australia, Northern Territory. And if you've been tuning in recently, we've been doing quite a lot of coverage around that. Some good chats with some demographers and data specialists from CoreLogic and REA and the rest of the cohort that provides that information. So we'll do that. We'll continue to do that. Myself, personally, I've got properties right across Australia. So I like to make sure that I'm connected, I'm engaged, and I'm probably very fortunate. One of the most fortunate people in property in Australia is that I get to speak to people from right across the nation to pick their brain to work out what's going on in a specific location. Somewhere where I have quite a lot of property is in Queensland, particularly in Brisbane, which I've had there for quite some time. I've been waiting, like the rest of Australia and property investors, for that to fire. Speaking with Tim Lawless and some of the other data specialists, it would appear that Brisbane at a point in time will start the fire. Some of it COVID-led, some of it just pepped up demand to catch up with some of the market dynamics in Sydney and Melbourne. So we're going to chat through all things Queensland today, particularly Southeast Queensland, where I've got my properties. Joining me in the studio, Jack Bird. He's a managing director of Cameron Bird Group. Jack, how's it going?
Well, good, thank you, Phil. How are you this morning?
I'm good, mate. Hey, so Cameron Bird Group, I've heard of that.
Sure.
And it's been around for many, many years. Is this second generation buyers agency?
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
It most certainly is, I guess, Phil. My father started the business back in 1978 with a gentleman by the name of Bruce Cameron. And then my father, David Bird, so that's where the name, the Cameron Bird Group, comes from Bruce Cameron and David Bird. David then passed on in 2010. I came into the business in 2005 and worked very closely with my father for 5 years. And then basically I've taken the reins from David in 2010 and I guess, carried the business into the digital age right up until now in 2020. So yeah, I've been involved with the business for 15 years. And I love it. Yeah, I really do. So we're not, we do offer a buyer's agency service, but we also, basically an investment property advisory firm. We specialise in the Southeast Queensland property market and have done for many, many years, Phil.
So give me some sense then of the breadth of services you provide. So in many ways, if you think of your old man and his business partner setting up the business back in the 70s, that was probably a pretty new concept back then.
Most definitely. Exactly right. That's right, Phil. I guess back in the 70s, my father realised that, general real estate agents weren't really equipped to find, quality investment properties and didn't quite understand the full fundamentals behind investment properties, and finding locations and growth drivers and that are going to push property prices upwards. Okay. So, he really saw a need there for someone to, get into the market that specialised more so in investment sales. And not so much just, selling to mums and dads looking to buy their first homes and that type of thing. So
yeah, and it's a very different skill set, servicing people who are looking for investment properties versus owner occupiers who are looking for,
most definitely,
a very different utility from their property. And
that's right.
And talking about sort of projecting into the digital age, who would have thought your old man would be sitting there going, wow, look at this podcasting now. That's how people get information around a property. And it's a real enabler now. You can speak to a lot more people, and I think the education for property investors now is so much better than what it has been, even in the time that you've been in the business, no doubt.
Yeah, that's right. I remember my father used to send direct mail out to letterboxes. The times have changed considerably, and then we went to email marketing, and now, look, we're doing podcasts. So times have changed, and it's for the better. I really think this is fantastic, and this is the first time I've done a podcast, so I'm a little bit nervous this morning, but I'm going okay. So,
oh, mate, you're doing all right. And look, I think it's a really good medium because you can just have a chat about what's going on, and we'll get into your views on the Queensland market in a moment. But for you personally, then, has there ever been a time in your whole life where you haven't been around property conversations? Like you used to chat about this at the dinner table when you were a kid. You've done a good apprenticeship.
Yeah, exactly right. That's right. So my father, he used to be on the board of the professionals. He had the professionals agency in Noosa for many, many years. So I've been around the property, industry for many, many years now. And I've certainly learnt a lot. I guess, from 2005 through to 2010, I worked very closely with David. And I basically got as much information from him because I knew at that point David was quite unwell, and I knew that I wasn't going to, have him around for all that much longer. So I really wanted to try and gather as much information and his philosophy behind property investing before he actually passed on. So, But yeah, I certainly learned a lot from him, and I still utilize a lot of his philosophies today when I'm searching for investment properties for our clients. And, he taught me all about the fundamentals, I guess, behind, property investing. So, yeah, it was very beneficial.
Oh, no doubt. And that mentorship, I know a lot of the most successful property investors I know all have a mentor who's seen many more market cycles than they have. And,
Sure.
I'm fortunate that I get to pick up the phone and talk to anyone, right? So I've got a mentor on tap.
Exactly. I'm very lucky.
It's, the philosophy of attaching yourself to people who know what's going on to make more informed investment decisions is absolutely critical. Was there ever a time in your life, Jack, where you weren't going to go into the family business, or it was, the day you were born, it was like, okay, next generation property specialist?
No, I guess, there was a time there. Like, my background is actually in the marine industry. Before I got into the property industry, I'm a marine engineer by trade. So I went off and did my own thing there for quite some time. And then my father, really tried to get me involved more so with the business. And I decided to, follow more so in his footsteps, I guess. So, and I'm, since doing that, I love it. I absolutely enjoy being in the property industry. I love assisting people. I love sharing my knowledge with people and trying to help people as much as possible. So that's what my goal is to build, long-term relationships with my clients. And I've become very good friends with a lot of my clients as well. So a lot of my clients do come from Sydney, Melbourne region, and they've become quite good friends. They travel up to Queensland, and when they come to Queensland, say, "Hey, Jack, we're coming to town, and how about we catch up for a coffee, or let's go out for dinner," or which is fantastic. So a lot of my investors now, they're building a portfolio with me, and they're up to their 6th and 7th property with me, which is, that's very rewarding for myself. I love being able to assist people and just be able to share my knowledge in relation to the Southeast Queensland property market. I don't focus on Australia as a whole. I'd more so like to focus on a select area, and that being Southeast Queensland. That's my forte. That's my backyard. I was born and bred in Noosa. I spent 30 years in Noosa. So, yeah, that's, as I say, that's my backyard and where I like to,
to operate. And specialisation, there's nothing wrong with that. And are you still based in Noosa? Is that still HQ?
No, I'm actually in central Queensland at the moment. I've moved up here for family reasons. Have been up here for a few years now. I've got a son and wife and that type of thing. So, yeah, no, it's very easy for me to travel backwards and forwards to Southeast Queensland. It's about a 4-hour drive from where I am.
That's all pretty accessible. But, like the power of Zoom these days, it's largely relevant where you're located, as long as you can get access to those markets. At a personal level, what was the catalyst, mate? What was the sort of the light bulb moment or the reason why you've gone from going, in marine engineering into, hang on a second, there's another career for me in property?
Yeah, I guess, knowledge is power. I saw my father, succeed very well in the property market himself personally. And I guess I wanted to follow more so in my father's footsteps and learn more about the property industry. I've always had a passion for property, but yeah, I really wanted to learn more about it. And he was, he was a very knowledgeable man. He's been doing it for many, many years. And I guess, my father had set up and established a very good company as well. So, we've got quite a large database of property investors that my father's been building up over many, many years. And, I guess, I just saw an opportunity there, and I thought,
what's the wider family think about you taking over the reins of the family business? They must have been pretty happy with that.
Yeah, they love it. Yeah, absolutely love. Just seeing me following my father's footsteps is pretty rewarding for the rest of the family for sure. So it's good.
That's cool. Jack, we're going to go to a quick break. We'll be back in a moment.
Yeah, not a problem.
Welcome back, everyone. Phil Tarrant, host of the Smart Property Investment Show with Jack Bird, Managing Director of the Cameron Bird Group. Now, Jack, you've mentioned, you've explained your journey into property out of marine engineering, and you said you've obviously learned a lot from your father. What would you say, and what you're happy to share with, what was the most important lesson you've learned from your father and his experience in property to make you good at what you're doing today in supporting property investors? What's the secret?
I guess the secret for me is, finding locations where there's a lot to it, I guess, Phil. As you probably well know, there's a lot to, finding a location where it's all about the growth drivers for that location. We look very much so into the data behind a location as well, both at the macro and the micro level. We look at vacancy rates. But yeah, I guess, finding locations where there's solid growth drivers, which is going to push property prices upwards. And that's the most important thing. There's a lot of people that, I guess, go into property investing quite blind, I guess, and that can be detrimental to their portfolio. So it's all about doing research. And the Cameron Bird Group, we do pride ourselves on the research. We spend a long, long time, researching an area before we make any recommendation to our investors. With all of the properties that we recommend, we prepare a very detailed information pack. Sometimes that can be up to 30 or 40 pages long that goes right into the area, the demographic of the area, what's happening in there, and I guess give a reason why would you invest in that location, and then we go into the property itself. So it covers all facets of the investment opportunity.
So it all comes still back down to buying in the right location at the right time.
Most definitely. Yeah, most definitely. Yep, that's exactly right. So.
and this is probably one of the challenges a lot of property investors have, is that when you start off in property investment, and even as you become more educated, it sometimes compounds it. You get too caught up in too much of the detail when it comes to property investment. If you want to be successful in property investment, it's just really finding or following that golden rule, because it is an enabler, buying in the right place at the right time. Because what happens then is that it gives you capital growth and potentially yield. So at a point in time, it might be 20, 30 or 40 years when you want to divest and sell down that asset, you've got options and choice.
Exactly. And a lot of our properties, we're trying to find properties that are in areas where owners want to live. You know what I mean? Not just an influx of investors and rental properties, because at the end of the day, investors at some point, they're going to want to sell their properties. And, I guess you could say 70% of buyers are owner occupiers, and then the 30% are property investors. So, we very much focus on locations where, owner occupiers are going to want to be living, and it's going to certainly help with your exit strategy, most definitely.
Yeah, and that's the power in property, is that if you control the outcome of property investing by buying well in the right locations, it just gives you so much more bandwidth in executing or evolving your strategy. It allows you to move faster, potentially. It allows you to acquire more property. It allows you to acquire different properties. It gives you fat in your portfolio to be able to do developments. And hence the reason why most property investors in Australia only have between 1 and 2 properties, because they normally buy the wrong properties. The wrong properties first, and then it just stops them forever. So give me some sense, Jack, to, you've got probably generational people now that you've serviced in property investments, sons and daughters of your dad's original customers. What's your client base look like? Who uses the Cameron Bird Group to support the wealth creation through property investment?
So we've got investors from all around Australia, Phil. We've got investors from Tasmania right up to Darwin. We've got international investors as well. A lot of Australian expats that are living overseas that have known about the Cameron Bird Group for many, many years. But you're right, we've got, people on our CRM there that have purchased property through us, several times, and then they've recommended us to their family and their friends and their sons and their daughters. Yeah, so we've got investors from all around Australia that, they make contact with us quite regularly.
Lots of stuff. And, it's interesting. I get to speak to a lot of people who work in investment advisory right across Australia, and everyone's sort of, pretty much every investment advisor I know has the same base philosophy as servicing their clients, i.e. finding the right property for them for the right need in their portfolio. Now, you said your philosophy is very much towards identifying areas in owner-occupier type locations, which has rental demand, which is a fundamental for property investors. Well, how would you sort of explain the investment philosophy you have within the Cameron Bird Group? What sort of stuff do you buy? What do you like? What sort of price points are they?
Yeah, sure. So we try and, focus more so on, I guess, portfolio grade properties more so than investment grade properties, if that makes sense.
I might get you to explain that, because I don't think a lot of people understand that.
Yeah, sure. I guess, there's the bottom of the barrel investment grade properties, I guess, where they're, very cheap quality fixtures and fittings, in cheaper areas where the land component is very, very cheap. Yeah, I guess we try and, stick with properties where an owner occupier is going to want to purchase that property in the future for, which is going to provide a good exit strategy for the investor as such, Phil. So, but we don't really do too much with, high rise, high density apartments. We do stick more so with medium density and low density residential properties in good growth locations. We like to do, boutique projects. For example, just recently we had a boutique townhouse development of 13 townhouses in a really good location of the Sunshine Coast. The fixtures and fittings were of very good quality, very high ceilings, all stone benches, good quality appliances. And it turned out that, 50% of the development was sold to owner occupiers and 50% was sold to property investors. So that's a true testament to the actual developer and the development itself. It's really good quality property. So,
Yeah. And you say you purchase or specialize around southeast Queensland. How would you border that? Because people bandy around southeast Queensland quite a
certainly.
lot, but it's quite a geographically diverse
It
area, all the
is
way
a
from
large,
Noosa to the border, really, isn't it?
That's right, exactly. So at the moment, there's a lot of infrastructure happening around the Maroochydore. We're very focused on the Sunshine Coast. At the moment, the Sunshine Coast is the strongest property market here in Queensland. Okay, so it's outperforming the Brisbane market and it's outperforming the Gold Coast market as well. So again, we're very focused on the Sunshine Coast, but again, the Sunshine Coast is a large area as well. So, we don't really focus too much on the north of Maroochydore area. North of Maroochydore, let's say Noosa is very much a holiday destination. And I guess, Maroochydore South is where all the infrastructure is happening. So for example, in Maroochydore, they're building a completely new CBD. There was a golf course in the middle of Maroochydore, a 54-hectare golf course. They've now moved out of town and they're building a whole new CBD right there in Maroochydore. So, there's a lot of growth drivers in and around Maroochydore South. The new hospital precinct in Batinia Island, which is a large development by the Stockland Group. They've got some, big estates in south of Batinia Island as well, around the Caloundra area, Aura. So there's just so much happening there on the Sunshine Coast at the moment. It was very much reliant on the tourism industry, but now we're finding it's got a very robust and diverse economy. There's roughly $20 billion worth of infrastructure projects that are currently underway, completed or planned, which is, really driving population growth, driving job growth. And it's going really, really well there on the Sunshine Coast.
So when you consider opportunities for property investors across Australia and why they should be targeting southeast Queensland versus potentially Melbourne or Sydney or Adelaide or Tasmania or any regional locations, what's driving investors up to southeast Queensland and particular Sunshine Coast?
I think one of the big things is around southeast Queensland is affordability and lifestyle as well. But I guess COVID has brought that on to some degree as well. Whereas, it's very much accepted now to be able to work remotely via Zoom and that type of thing. So I think as the borders open, I think we're going to see an influx of people moving and investing in southeast Queensland, because I also think it's very much seen as a safe haven at the moment as well, Phil. But I guess to answer the question, mate, I think, a lot of it is related to affordability. There are still some very, affordable locations throughout southeast Queensland. Lifestyle as well, but not only that, mate, infrastructure. There's just so much happening with new infrastructure, which is creating, job growth, and people move to areas where there's a lot of job growth, So
well, it's been clear, and no doubt you tuned into the federal budget a few days ago when Australia's prosperity sort of coming out of COVID-19 and this recession is going to be driven by jobs. And
correct,
I know you're sort of gearing up to a state-based election in
we are, that's right.
Queensland. What's your views on all that? Is the current government really focusing on infrastructure development, or is that going to be a contentious point for the election?
No, I think moving forward, and as we come out of COVID, I think we're going to see a lot of new infrastructure projects get off the ground. I think, the way the government is going to boost the economy and get the economy back on track is through infrastructure projects, which are creating jobs and job growth. So, but look, there's a bit of controversy in relation to our Premier, keeping the borders closed. Myself personally, I have mixed feelings about it. With our numbers of COVID has been, considerably less than New South Wales and Victoria. So in that sense, I think she's done the right thing. But, you talk to some people and that they believe that it's really affecting the economy. But I think, moving forward, I think Queensland or southeast Queensland as a whole is in for some really good times moving forward, in particular next year. Yeah, and I think, one of the biggest drivers obviously is going to be the infrastructure projects, which are going to get off the ground.
And, infrastructure is a supporter of job creation, which can positively impact property prices. Jack, we'll go to another break. We'll be back in a moment. Welcome back, everyone. Phil Tarrant, Jack Bird, chatting all things southeast Queensland. Now, Jack, when you look at or consider the market in Brisbane and then also the Gold Coast is feast and famine. It's probably one of the markets in Australia that probably has the most flux. When it's firing, it's firing. When it's not firing, it's not firing. What's your views on the Gold Coast at the moment, mate?
My views on the Gold Coast, there was a lot of build up to the Commonwealth Games there in the Gold Coast. I think the Gold Coast, it comes back to where you're and what you're investing in the Gold Coast. Certainly, I'd say right away from, high-rise apartment buildings. I think there's some, little niche areas to the north of the Gold Coast is still performing quite well. Myself personally, I think there's better areas in the Gold Coast to be investing in just at the moment. And, we focus on southeast Queensland, but really right now we're very much focused on the Sunshine Coast. And I'll reiterate that again, that the Sunshine Coast is performing extremely well. And
yeah, Sunshine Coast, Jack, is a lot of that driven by, everyone's talking now, and you sort of mentioned it briefly, the changing way in which Australians will work into the future as a result of COVID. And a lot of people are annoyed that it's taken COVID to get bosses to think a particular way and saying, hey, people can work from home, and
that's right.
the productivity and stuff. And look, whether or not, the whole productivity debate will be played out in time. But what are the drivers of, the sort of the Noosa market or Sunshine Coast market? Is it Brisbane locals moving up and out into the Sunshine Coast? Is that impacting the Brisbane market?
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of people. I'm finding there is a lot of people moving up from Brisbane, even the Gold Coast. There's a lot of people moving from more regional areas of Queensland down to the Sunshine Coast because of work prospects, because of lifestyle as well. I know there's quite a few people moving to the Sunshine Coast from up around central Queensland, Mackay, Rockhampton region. They're moving down to the Sunshine Coast, for the amenities and lifestyle. But again, mate, I think is when the borders open up and restrictions ease further, I think we're going to see a lot of people moving up from down south, down your way, from Sydney and Victoria or Sydney and Melbourne. I really see the Sunshine Coast being as a safe haven for, property purchasers and also investors, people that are wanting to.
And that dynamic was already starting anyway, people considering a move up north from the southern states. So it's not a new dynamic. However, I think it will be amplified by COVID and to your point, affordability. Your money goes a lot further up in the Sunshine Coast and Brisbane. When you consider the median price in Sydney, it fluctuates a bit. It's about $1 million, right? Like $1 million gets you a fair bit of housing or a fair bit of investment property up in the Sunshine Coast, right?
Oh, most definitely. Yeah, you could, with $1 million, you could do quite a lot, Phil.
Are you on waterfront with $1 million? Yeah.
Oh, most definitely. Yeah, most definitely. Oh, beautiful ocean views. If you wanted to, with $1 million, you could look at purchasing a couple of properties, or you could buy one very, very nice property and, around the Noosa region, overlooking Laguna Bay, or, beautiful views, of the ocean, or Sunshine Beach region, looking south or further north. But yeah, with $1 million, you can certainly do a lot here in southeast Queensland, and go
a mate of mine just bought up in Noosa for a sort of quasi lifestyle. He lives in Singapore, but a quasi lifestyle investment, quasi property for part of his investment portfolio. How's the sort of Airbnb stock up there? Because I know sort of during COVID there was all these restrictions around Airbnb stuff, so I put a lot of investment properties back on the market. Is that a key driver of investment strategy up in the Sunshine Coast?
Look, Airbnb, it's, as you can probably respect, it has been affected pretty badly by COVID-19, but that is to be expected. But at the end of the day, I think that will definitely come back as well as restrictions ease. In saying that though, as well, like I know quite a few locations throughout Queensland, which, since restrictions here in Queensland have eased, a lot of people from Queensland are moving around and going to, the Sunshine Coast recently through the school holidays. And other areas of Queensland were extremely busy, and nothing's really changed too much there on the coast, through holiday periods and whatnot, Phil. So I was there on the coast throughout the holiday period, and mate, it was go, go, go. It really was. It was extremely busy.
And how about Brisbane itself, and Brisbane has sort of different dynamics to Sydney and in Melbourne, where you sort of had these concentric rings going out from the city. It's north, south, sort of east, west. It's a different sort of dynamic in Brisbane. For people eyeing the Brisbane market, what do you like? Where do you like? What sort of stuff do you like?
So people that are interested in the Brisbane market, we're very bullish about the Moreton Bay region on the north side of Brisbane. We don't really get too much into the Ipswich region. The Ipswich, I guess you shouldn't never write off a location as a whole. Like you shouldn't never write off Logan, but there are pockets within Logan which are still performing very well, and areas where I'd definitely be recommending for people to invest in. But, again, there's always pockets within a location which, perform better than other areas. The Brisbane apartment market, that's still struggling to a degree. And I certainly wouldn't be, recommending people to be investing in the Brisbane apartment market just at the moment. But certainly the Moreton Bay region. Moreton Bay region is another area of Queensland, which is probably one of the fastest growing urban areas of Australia. So there's a lot happening there in relation to new infrastructure throughout the Moreton Bay region as well. There's a new university and a lot of job creating infrastructure which is happening there on the Moreton Bay region as well. But as I say, we focus more so on the Moreton Bay region, more so than the western suburbs of Ipswich, and even probably more so than the Logan region. Also,
Yeah, I've got plenty of property up there. I'm waiting for it to go up in value so I can
Sure.
refinance it. But
And
I've got a fair bit of stuff around that. What is it? Sunshine Coast Universities? That's what it's called. Around
Sippy
Petrie,
Downs,
Lawton, that sort of way. What's going on with that? Is that bubbling away still?
It is. It certainly is bubbling away. Yeah, the new university had opened very early this year and then was shut down pretty quickly because of COVID. But now they're back open again, and it's only at stage 1, so it's got a long way to go as well. And there's a lot of new infrastructure being built around the actual university itself, transport hubs and retail and coffee shops and that type of thing as well. So, but yeah, it's certainly very vibrant at the moment, and property prices are remaining very, very strong, Phil. We've seen, next to no negative effect whatsoever throughout the Moreton Bay region, all at the Sunshine Coast from COVID-19. Yeah, there has been some negative effect in some locations around Ipswich, and I guess it comes back to the type of product as well. There's the unit market is, I guess you could call it very much investment grade unit market, has slowed down a bit, and property values there have been affected. But across the board, we're going quite strong here in Queensland.
Oh, it's good to hear, mate. Well, Jack, thanks for your time today, mate. It's good to connect in and pick your brain on the market. You know what? And me personally, I haven't really thought too much about the Sunshine Coast as an investment location, so I might have a little bit of a sniff around. Definitely
an area to be looking closely at. As I say, at the moment, it is one of the strongest. Well, it is the strongest area in Queensland for property investing. It's outperforming other locations, and I think that's going to continue to grow as well. So it's in for some good times. There's no doubt about that. So.
Nice one, mate. That's really cool. And I really like the backstory of your business, the Cameron Bird Group. It's good to see these second generation property investment specialists. It goes to show how strong this sector is, and property advisory as an industry sector is not a newfangled thing. It's actually been around since the 70s, and Cameron Bird Group is definitely testament to that. So thanks so much for your time today.
Yeah, thanks very much for having me on your show, and thanks again, and I look forward to doing it again sometime.
No worries, mate. Thanks. Good one, Jack. Remember to check out smartpropertyinvestment.com.au. If you're not yet subscribing to our daily morning newsletter, so the first to know what's happening in property right across the nation, including the Sunshine Coast, where the sun is always shining. smartpropertyinvestment.com.au/subscribe. Social media, just search us Smart Property HQ. You'll track us down there. We'll see you again next time. Until then, bye-bye.
The information featured in this podcast is general in nature and does not take into consideration your financial situation or individual needs and should not be relied upon. Before making any investment, insurance, tax, property or financial planning decision, you should consult a licensed professional who can advise whether your decision is appropriate for you. Guests appearing on this podcast may have a commercial relationship with the companies mentioned.